Maybe at some point you could have come across some of these seemingly obscure masked characters who seem to be telling us some hidden story through songs and metaphors. And once I stumbled upon this project myself and it fascinated me so much that I decided to look into the story on my own. And I'll say that was fabulous. So, what exactly is Yaelokre? Yaelokre is a storytelling project that honors wonder throughout songs and illustrations, created by just one person, Clémente Dearworth. The entire lore takes place in a world called Lark, a diary turned into a storybook. And by the way, speaking of lore, I want to note that this project is still in its early stages, so keep in mind that some aspects of the lore can change in the future. Or not. So, let's move on to the main phases of the story, the musical ensemble, the Lark, made up of 4 orphaned children. Let's take a quick look at each of them. Cole Seymour wears a hair mask. They are the founder and leader of the group, always playing the main role, despite being the shyest and having stage fright. Since this is a musical band, it's clear that each member should have an instrument. And for Cole, it's a guitarlele. It's a mix of a guitar and ukulele, for those who didn't know. Like me, for example. Most of the Lark's ideas were created by Cole. Clémente Dearworth wears a goat mask and plays bells or glockenspiel. Because Cole is so stage shy, it was Clementine who came up with the idea of wearing masks to help them feel more comfortable. Clementine is also very endearing and darling, and they love calling Cole Honeysuckle. By the way, name Clementine is just a nickname. Their real name is actually Clement, but due to some past events, which we will discuss later, the Lark decided to give them the nickname by which they are known today. Also, fun fact, they and Cole are dating. Kingsley, just Kingsley, wears a tree mask. If the other masks represent some type of animal, Kingsley's mask rather represents nature. In theory, they should have some kind of woodwind, but in practice, they just pretend to play the flutes because they don't have one. Kingsley has a very playful and childlike personality. They are also quite witty, as demonstrated in animations with the Lark.
Cole, I know you don't have a job, but I don't work for free. If you give me 5 crickets, I'll distract Clementine for you.
I don't have crickets, Kingsley.
Sorry, baby girl, but business is business.
Peregrine August, more commonly known as Perrin, though recently Yaelokre decided to change their name, so wears a moose mask. They play shakers, though they are mostly present as back vocals. They love giving everyone nicknames like Clemmy for Clementine. From the group they are the only one with heterochromia, the oldest and most experienced. Despite being the most emotional of the group, they usually try to keep their feelings hidden. Also, Peregrine is a pet magnet and animals are basically their thing. Now, speaking more seriously, Lark isn't just a fully fictional world. Well, partly it is, but a large portion of it is based on Yaelokre's own personality, experiences and childhood. For example, each of the Lark members symbolizes different parts of Yaelokre's life, desires and wishes, as Yaelokre themselves recently shared with us in their post through the colors of the eyes. Kingsley's periwinkle blue eyes represents childhood and the confidence that Yaelokre either lost or choose to tame. Peregrine's chestnut and olive colors reflects the bridge Yaelokre had to cross for growth, like a crossroad, an internal conflict about choosing an identity. Clementine's silver eyes mirror who Yaelokre wanted to be, such as the desire to become a mother figure for someone. Cole's grey eyes match Yaelokre's own, which is why they may be a reflection of Yaelokre, the person they are today. Always at the center of attention, despite their shyness and desire to remain unseen. Keys holds these characters close to their hearts. Yaelokre wouldn't exist without the Lark, just as the Lark wouldn't exist without Yaelokre. Well, we have talked about the main characters, but it's obvious that there are not only these 4 in this world. The Lark is tied to each of the Harkers, the storyteller, Yarrow the bellringer, the enkindled and the croon, wandering storytellers cherished as the faces of fairy tales. They sing of stories, both retold and unsung, shifting from truth to fiction, nurturing the same melody that brought them to existence, our ability to create wonder. The Harkers aren't human at all. they are more like things brought to life. Although, to be fair, in the world of Middle-Lark, no one is really human except the Lark. Literally. Oh, and here's a fun fact. What might seem evil to us could mean nothing to these creatures. Now, let's talk about each of the Harkers individually. The storyteller represents the past and Cole represents them as their Harker. In fact, Cole idolizes them like crazy. A man made of straws, so to speak. Yarrow, the bell ringer, represents the future and Clementine represents them as their Harker. Oh, and also they are married to the storyteller. So that's why Cole and Clemmy are together. It all makes sense now. Just kidding, it was a coincidence. The Enkindled represents balance in nature and Kingsley represents them as their Harker. They have the ability to shapeshift but are mostly known for taking the form of a hound. And lastly, the Croon represents Chaos and Peregrine represents them as their Harker. Oh man, so much has already been said and still not a word about music. Anyway, at the time of this video's release, only 2 albums have come out. The most well-known Hayfields and the recently released Songs of Origin, both performed by the Lark, obviously. Starting with Hayfields, this album doesn't delve much into the Lark's lore, or even the world itself. It's more like a prologue, because according to Keith Osk, it was just a glimpse of their thoughts, without a specific direction, unlike, for example, Songs of Origin. More like a bunch of old journal pages thrown together. But if you really wanna find a connection to the lore, well, maybe there's one to be made. Hayfields consists of 4 songs: Hartebeest, Harpy Hare and the Hound, and Neath the Grow with a Heart. The lyrics might even scare an unsuspecting listener at some point with lines like "When the cats kill one by one" or "Harpy Hare, where have you buried all your children?" Yes, sounds a little creepy, so here's a piece of advice. Don't take everything in Middle-Lark literally, the meanings lies elsewhere. So what do these songs really mean? To find out, I went digging through Yaelokre's Twitter for some hints, and I found some. They posted that the Harpy, the Hare and the Hound is a fairy tale similar to the mention of the 7 Dwarfs Red Riding Hood in the world of Middle-Lark, a story with many versions and interpretations. So in a way, the entire Hayfields album might be a retelling of old Middle-Lark folklore, whose original meaning no one quite remembers anymore. This idea is also reinforced by the album's description, which literally says "The Harpy, the Hare, the Hound and a home that heaves below" are verses from 4 different Middle-Lark chapters. The only difference between the post and the description is that now it's 4 verses instead of 3. What's more, it also mentions that these verses serve as preludes for each of the Harkers, though we are left to figure out exactly which Harker corresponds to which song. Next, I'll try to analyze each song, but keep in mind that you shouldn't take my interpretations as the absolute truth. The whole point of the album is that everyone finds their own meaning. Anyway, here's my take. Hartebeest seems to explore themes of survival, fear and the relentless cycles of nature. The Hartebeest itself symbolizes endurance, and its song captured the endless struggle to stay alive. As for which Harker it relates to, I feel it could represent either Enkindled for the balance in chaos, or the storyteller. Harpy Hare, the most well-known song, tells us the story of a mother, an overprotective, caring but selfish, who hides her children from the outside world, even though her children may suffer because of it. By the end of the song, it's clear that the mother won't be able to keep her children forever, and she needs to accept that. This song probably relates to the bell ringer, I hope, and the Hound. Here things get even more confusing. The song seems to be addressing someone, either protecting them by telling lies or conversely exposing them to even greater danger. Another possibility is that it's about someone who constantly lies to themselves, refusing to face the truth. But this lie lullaby only makes things worse and more frightening. This one probably relates to the Enkindled, due to its title. Neath the Grow with a Heart recalls the motifs of all previous songs. Most likely, it's a song about finding home, and in the end it comes down to the idea that home is where we are, where you are, where I am. I don't really like how I've put it so directly to the text, but I can't really think of another way to put it. Honestly, the song's lyrics reminds me of the Lark, though I'm not entirely sure if that's actually the case. It likely relates to the croon, though the connection feels pretty weak. These were my thoughts on the meaning of these songs, and I'd love to hear your interpretations. Maybe you have different insights into them. Meanwhile, I'll be moving on to the cherry on top. Brace yourself, because a ton of lore is coming up. Songs of Origin, the second album released by Yaelokre, which now tells us not about forgotten verses but about the past of the Lark, more specifically the past of Cole and Clementine. When this album first dropped, as a true fan, I immediately dove into analyzing it, but of course in a world of Meadowlark information is never handed over directly, so I started theorizing. Oh, and before I dive into my thoughts, please know that what follows are only my speculations and theories, keep that in mind. The first song on this album is titled My Farewells to the Fields, where Cole reflects on their past. That's where I decided to start my thoughts, and well, it was tough. Initially reading the lyrics, I thought Cole's past was tied to a war that forced them to hide and say goodbye to the village. And it seems I wasn't the only one with this theory, as later on, Yaelokre clarified on Twitter that this interpretation was incorrect, and that they wouldn't tackle topics and themes they haven't had a personal connection or experience with. So with that theory out, I kept thinking. I then realized that one song alone wouldn't reveal Cole's past so easily, so I dug deeper and found an interesting Tumblr post by Yaelokre. Unfortunately, this post is no longer available, but someone took a screenshot that lets us learn the following story. The storyteller, the bell ringer and the enkindled came to the foolish majesty to warn him of a tempest, a storm, a madness that is the croon. And yet he did not listen. Tragedy occurs, which leads us to another story, one that mentions the hills Cole sang about in their Song of Origin. Aha, so it seems that even before all the main events, Cole lived in some kingdom ruled by some majesty, who truly was foolish because he ignored warnings. So at some point chaos descended upon Cole's village, and the croon seems to have been involved. This might be the beginning of the story, but to fully understand it, we need to go deeper. The Songs of Origin trailer opens with a line that raises some questions. What once was a hamlet left to play pretend remained a scarecrow, a hen, and a leveret. This suggests that something unfortunate did happen to the village, leaving only the scarecrow, or the storyteller, the leveret, or Cole, and a hen? If I'm not mistaken, none of the Lark or the Harkers are linked to some hen. Alright, this will remain an open question for now, as we continue with the trailer. The next line is honestly unclear to me, so I'm not confident about this theory, but it says that the croon promised to breathe life to make way for another. Is this about the village taking the lives of some to give life to others, or does it mean giving Cole a new life in exchange for their old one? This remains a mystery to me. The trailer then narrates a dialogue. If this were destined, then I shall not question, though now you must tell me, why was it not taken, says she to the Harker. She. At first this word seriously kept me up at night, as I couldn't figure out who might be questioning the Harker, but then I linked it to a recent tweet by Yaelokre where they clarified that if he or she is mentioned, it's most likely a parent. And then it clicked. I realized that the hen mentioned earlier could be Cole's mother, and it's she who questioned the Harker about our leader of the Lark. The storyteller replies to her question. The child does not belong here. Take it far, give it a name. Places forget, stories remember. And with that final verse delivered, goodbyes were sealed, and the trailer ended with line, "This is the Song of Origin, my farewells to the fields." As if this entire trailer was Cole's monologue before beginning their song, which turn in our discussion has finally come. The hills were left quiet, and I am in hiding. They've forgotten, I do not want to see. I could hear, and that's enough. The clashing of the horse, hoof by hoof, horn by horn. Cole sang this with a trembling voice, as if it were difficult and painful for them to share this part of their life. Honestly, it's understandable. Not everyone could calmly speak about such a tragic past. If we compile everything from the theories and narratives, here's the picture I envision of Cole's past. Chaos at some point descended on the hills where Cole once lived. It's unclear what exactly happened, but we know Cole hid from this catastrophe until someone found them. Left in the village were the storyteller, Cole's mother, and Cole. After a conversation between Cole's mother and the Harker, it was decided Cole should live somewhere better, meaning they had to say goodbye to their old life, to the man made of straws, to their name, to the hills, and likely against their own will. Phew, this is roughly how I imagine Cole's past. Some details are still unclear, like what exactly happened to the hills. I suspect the chaos that destroyed the village is related to some natural disaster caused by the croon. The lyrics of another song titled Kid and Leverett hints at this, but since all we have about this song is a public performance of it by Yaelokre, because the song hasn't been officially released yet, let's hold off on connecting this theory to the main story until we get the official release. I think we've already come pretty far with the information we have. So, we've discussed Cole, but we still have Clementine and their song Birdcage, Blue and Yellow. This song brings us Clementine's backstory, and thankfully it was much easier to unpack. While analyzing it, I even found some connection to Cole's past. But unlike Cole, who was forced to leave their home, Clementine chose to escape theirs. The name Birdcage, Blue and Yellow says it all. Clement felt trapped like a doll or a puppet, forced to be someone they didn't want to be. This is especially clear in lines like "Flowers never talk, they never want, they never need." And "I can't be different, I can't be puppeted." Throughout the song they complain about the situation they were in, to which they had been brought by the Baroness, or Anais, Clementine's adopter. Whether blinded by a wish or a worry, the child was but a reflection of her own reverie. And yet, Anais was not directly the embodiment of evil. Clement was still very much loved and honored in this house, but they wanted to be themselves, not someone else's mirror. Eventually, all of this built up to the point where Clement left the Baroness and the house where they were buried in before. The song closes with the line "Free Sparrow, Far Away," sung in Filipino by Kingsley and Peregrine, symbolizing Clementine's escape from their birdcage, and it's followed by "A Voice Like a Bell Keeps Us Safe from the Future," sung in Icelandic by Cole and Clementine, referencing Yarrow the Bell Ringer. And that's pretty much the end of the song. But did you know we can also find out how Cole and Clementine met up for the first time? Some time ago Yaelokre released a video where Kingsley and Peregrine are complaining about something at the start. While Kingsley's complaints are more like humorous, Peregrine's seem serious and pointed at how Clementine even agreed to sing about their past. The line cuts off, but we can hear that during their first encounter, Cole found Clementine dead by the something. It seems like happiness is illegal in the world of Middle Lark. So, these are my theories, speculations, and a few synonyms on the world of Yaelokre. Remember though, Cole and Clementine's backstory, as I shared, is just a theory. I cannot say for sure if it's true, but I hope I got somehow close to the truth. That would be awesome. As I said at the beginning, this project is in its early stages. Only the first chapter of the story has been released. We still haven't learned about Kingsley, Peregrine, the Harkers, and in general there hasn't been a word yet about all sorts of interesting things that I found a little information about, but decided not to tell in this video because this part of the lore hasn't been released yet. A few words from me. I don't know what kind of magic Yaelokre has, but the moment I learned about them, I got pulled into their music and atmosphere in a way that is hard to describe. I've only been in this fandom for 2 months, and every day I wanted to do something for it more and more. That's how this video came to be, and if at some point it manages to bring new fans into the fandom, that will be great. Diving into this lore has been challenging, but incredibly interesting. Now let's look forward for more lore drops and songs from Yaelokre, and then I'll be back with fresh theories and thoughts, as things will only get more interesting. If you enjoyed this video, I have a suggestion. You can subscribe to this channel. It would really help me out. And lastly, thank you for watching.